Good afternoon. My name is Adrian Burrell, and would you like to help me conduct a study for African American Studies for Aberdeen High School?
Most definitely. Thank you for the opportunity.
What is your name and how do you say it, sir? How do you spell it, sir?
My name is Adrien Burrell, Adrian. Burrell is French name, actually a Creole name, rooted in Louisiana culture, and it's spelled Dorel.
Thank you. How's your day been?
My day has been pleasant. How about yours?
Good. You are in the military, correct? How long did you serve?
Yes, sir. I am in the military. I've been serving on active duty for the past 29 years. I officially retired from active duty service at the end of my 30th year, which is May of 2019.
Interesting. What is your rank, sir?
I am a sergeant major in the United States Army, which is the highest enlisted rank that a service member can attain.
How long did it take you to attain that rank?
Throughout my military career, I progressed professionally at a rate based on my experience, my job, or duty positions, and to attain the rank of sergeant major, it varies depending on the individual soldier and his or her military occupational specialty. But for me, it took me 19 years.
Can you tell me what your most vivid memories of being in the military are, and why did you enter the military?
Well, starting at the beginning, why I decided to join the United States Army back in 1989. It was based on educational opportunities. At the time when I joined the United States Army, I joined for an initial term of 5 years. During those 5 years, I was able to attain educational benefits that would afford me the opportunity to go to college with the government paying for that college. And the military was something that I always wanted to do as it pertained to not only serving my country, but providing me the opportunity to enhance my individual proficiency on the skills that I wanted to attain. Therefore, when I exited the military, I would be able to be competitive in the civilian sector. I had no plan initially to make the military a career, but I fell in love with the service aspect of it, and I just continued to serve. And before I knew it, I was a career soldier.
Thank you for your answer. Have you seen any combat, and if so, of what kind?
Yes, I have been to Bloy two combat zones throughout my career. At some point throughout my career, I've served in multiple stations overseas, to include Afghanistan, to include Pakistan, to include Azerbaijan, to include some of the Baltic states, and not necessarily in hostile situations all the time, but I have been engaged in operations that lives hinged on the effectiveness of the way that we conducted our business.
What's your favorite and least favorite part of being in the military?
The favorite part of being in the military is service. The service to community, service to your nation. The opportunity that you have as an individual service member to affect the lives of America's sons and daughters is something that cannot be bought. You simply cannot put a price tag on being able to influence a young service member's life, to ensure that you provide him or her that opportunity to not only enhance their proficiency, but to be a good and contributing member in society. So that would be what I would consider the most honorable thing that any service member can do. On the flip side of that same coin, things that service members really, I won't say dislike, but you understand going in that it may be a sacrifice that you have to make, is the time that you may have to spend away from your loved ones. You don't always have the guarantee that you will be at a particular location and being able to spend the majority of that time with your family. There are going to be times throughout a service member's career that he or she are going to be called upon to go ahead and execute an operational mission that is going to pull them away from their family. And those are just sacrifices that servicemen and servicewomen accept. It comes with the territory.
Was there any type of discrimination you noticed during your time in the military?
The United States military is a microcosm of society. It's a literal melting pot of how we interact with each other on a daily basis in this country. Throughout the military, throughout the nation, there are always forms of discrimination, whether it's racial discrimination, gender discrimination, religious discrimination, or personal biases. And the military is no different from any other organization. The military does do a great job to ensure that all of its service members are educated and to look out for signs of discrimination. But discrimination is something that unfortunately is ingrained into each individual person, but you also have the capabilities and the opportunity in the military to stamp out that discrimination when you see it or experience it yourself. And it is something that it's going to be a never-ending battle, but the United States military does do a better job than most organizations or companies, corporate industry companies in this country, to ensure that discrimination is not something that is running rampant throughout the organization.
Thank you for your honest answer. If you had to take a guess, what percentage of the military do you think are African American?
The United States military, again, a reflection of society. The U.S. population is roughly 330 to 350 million people. Of that 330 million people, African Americans make up 13 to 15% of the U.S. population. And the United States military is pretty similar in those numbers. African Americans make up roughly around 14 to 16% of service members throughout the five different armed services: the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and United States Coast Guard. So the numbers actually reflect the U.S. population, with there being 14 to 16% of service members being African American, to reflect as the same numbers you see in the U.S. population.
Do you believe African Americans have had a major impact on the U.S. military, and if so, why do you think so?
African Americans have always had a deep or great impact on the U.S. military. Ever since there was a U.S. military, dating back to 1775, to the Continental Army. U.S. Service members of color have served in the United States Army since its inception. There has not been a war that the U.S. has fought that African Americans have not participated in, have not fought alongside their white brothers, so to speak, when it comes to having an impact in the military. Throughout the American history, African American service members have had enormous amounts of obstacles and challenges placed in front of them, simply because of the color of their skin. But they did not allow that type of discrimination, blatant discrimination at times, segregated discrimination at times, to dictate whether or not they were going to be committed to not only the mission, but service to the nation. The dedication of service that African Americans possess in the military is something that can never be challenged, simply because once a service member commits to providing that service to his or her community, they see it through, and specifically in the African American community.
Has the U.S. military experienced any major changes since you first joined? If so, of what kind?
The United States military has gone through an enormous amount of changes since I first raised my right hand to defend the Constitution back in 1989. The most recent change has been the opportunity for female service members to serve in combat arms military occupational specialties. Historically, specific combat or maneuver related jobs in the United States military were specifically allotted for male service members. But over the past few years, that or those job opportunities have been opened up to female service members. As long as they're able to meet the physical demands of that particular military occupational specialty, there is no other reason that they cannot serve in that specific job. Another form or another change has been the gender equality, has been the opportunity for gay and lesbian service members to openly serve, which was not the case when I first entered the United States military. So those are the two major changes that I would say have impacted the operational readiness of the United States Army in particular. Providing females the opportunity to compete for and serve in certain combat arms military occupational specialties that were not open to them or not available to them in the past, and also allowing service members who identify themselves as being gay or lesbian to openly serve their nation without any fear of reprisal or being administratively separated from the military.
Would you be would you recommend being in the military?
Recommendation for serving is something that has to be decided by the individual person seeking that opportunity. They have to express and ask the question to themselves: is this something that I'm doing simply because I want to do it, or to get away from a particular situation, or to set myself up for success professionally speaking, or for educational reasons, or commitment to country or community or family? Or is it just something that since I come from a service oriented family, that is just something that I feel that I have to do? The service, like any other job, is going to have its bumps in the road. It's going to provide you opportunities to definitely enhance your education, your personal education. It's definitely going to provide you an opportunity to travel. It's going to provide you an opportunity to learn new cultures. It's going to provide you an opportunity to ensure that you are having a positive impact on others. I cannot personally tell someone that they should serve, but for me, it has been a benefit. It has provided me an opportunity to learn different things. But like any other job, there are risks that come with this particular profession. But if one feels that he or she can serve and serve honorably and do it for the right reasons, then by all means.
Thank you for your answer, sir, and thank you for being such a great interviewee.
It's been my pleasure and my honor.